Welcome back. We continue now with SA Today, but we start north of our borders, where fears are rising over the fate of Zimbabwean medical doctor Peter Magombeyi after he allegedly sent a message that he was abducted by unknown persons for apparently asking for a living wage. Doctors have marched and are striking as we speak over the alleged abduction. And to tell us a little bit more about that, I'm now joined via Skype from Bulawayo by human rights activist and journalist Zenzele Ndebele. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, Zenzele. Tell us how we got to know about this abduction in the first instance.
Yesterday morning, we started receiving messages on social media, Twitter, and WhatsApp, actually saying that Peter had been abducted at around 10 in the evening and he has not been found. And later on, we then got to know from the Doctors for Without Borders, Doctors for Human Rights, as well as the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights, who actually filed the court application to try and find him. So up to today, he has not been found, and doctors have now gone on strike, demanding their money as well as the return for Peter.
All right, so he sent this message saying that 3 men have abducted him and he hasn't been heard of since.
Yeah, it's not really clear how he managed to send that message, but after that message was sent, he has not been heard of him. No one has managed to see him, and clearly people are getting to be worried because it's now more than 48 hours since he disappeared.
So doctors started striking in Harare yesterday, but this has now spread to other cities and to Bulawayo, where you are.
Yes, today we actually went to cover a march that was conducted by doctors from all the health institutions in Bulawayo. They were marching at Mpilo Hospital. In their speeches, they demanded that Peter be returned alive, as well that their working conditions should be reviewed. Actually, one of the speakers said a South African doctor can pay 10 doctors in Zimbabwe, and all what they need is a living wage. They don't want to be rich. So they said they will continue to strike until Peter is returned, and Peter returns with money.
Who do they believe has abducted Peter Magombeyi?
Well, from the talk of the doctors and the human rights and everyone else, they think that somehow the state is involved, or state agencies know something about that, because people are questioning why police have not acted, why someone has not been arrested, and actually who would have the means and the power to adapt a doctor except someone linked to the system.
I noticed that the Minister of Health and Child Care, Dr. Obadiah Moyo, told ZBC on Sunday that the government is taking this matter very seriously and that he's engaged the police to immediately institute investigations. So the authorities condemning this abduction, almost saying that we have nothing to do with it.
It's actually a good move that the Minister of Health is actually coming out and condemning this. But you remember that this is not the first time it's happening. We have seen in the past comedians being adopted. We've seen activists being adopted. The issue of adoptions in Zimbabwe go as back as 1980, where people were disappearing. A journalist, Itai Zamara, was adopted, and up to now, no one knows where he went to. There's also an activist in Zimbabwe who was adopted, in Bulawayo, who was adopted, and no one knows what happened to him. Patrick Nabanyama in 2000. So there are lots of people over the years who have been adopted, and really the state has not managed to solve it. So it's really a good move that officials like the Minister of Health are actually coming out and saying we don't know nothing about it. But I think they need to do more. The police need to go out and catch the culprits who are responsible for these disappearances.
Give us a sense of the atmosphere prevailing in Zimbabwe at this time. That somebody could be abducted just to say we want a living wage as doctors. For people outside the country, they might think this is extreme. Could it be as simple as just making demands for more money that such action could be taken?
Actually, you realize that in the past few months, each time trade unions or civil servants have tried to demonstrate, they've been, intimidation. We know that the teachers' union leaders have been beaten up, arrested, and all those kind of things. So there is a bit of fear, actually, not a bit, but a lot of fear when you look at the current situation. People are afraid, to demand their rights, but even too much, So generally, there seems to be a worrying trend that if you speak out, you are actually abducted, you are beaten up, you are arrested. So it's a worrying trend. What is more worrying is this is happening at a time when the whole world is actually watching Zimbabwe just a few days after the memorial service for Robert Mugabe, and when the UN rapporteur on human rights is expected to arrive in Zimbabwe tomorrow to look at the human rights situation in Zimbabwe, and such a huge thing happens. So why would someone adopt a doctor simply for saying he needs his salary and is demanding his living wage? Because that's supposed to be his constitutional right to actually demonstrate and demand, so that they put pressure on government so that he can negotiate.
Is this strike action affecting healthcare at this stage? And perhaps finally, how long do you expect it to continue?
I mean, the health system in Zimbabwe is already not that good, because we have shortages of medicine, shortage of the personnel. And for doctors to go on strike, it will really actually strain the system. We were at Mpilo Hospital this afternoon. We could see ambulances, with patients not being attended to. We saw about 2 ACs that were coming to collect the people who had just died. So it's actually a bad situation. And from what the doctors were saying, they're saying that they're going to down their tools until Peter is found and until their money is reviewed or their salary is reviewed. So it's not clear for how long they are going to go on, but it's not good for the health system in Zimbabwe.
All right, Zenzele, we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much indeed. That's a journalist and human rights activist, Zenzele Ndebele, speaking to us from Bulawayo, where doctors have joined the strike, a national strike it's looking like, to try and see the return of the president of the Zimbabwe Health Doctors Association.